I think nostalgia is important, and we all have associations with these songs, and so it'll for every individual person, it'll bring back different memories, maybe of where they were when they heard it, or being with family, or watching the movies on Turner Classic Movies. But also, I just feel that this was a golden age of American popular songwriting. It's kind of like America's Shakespeare. America's Shakespearean age, where they didn't even realize, the songwriters and orchestrators didn't realize they were creating art. They just were getting a paycheck, most of them, but yet they did.
Hi, Joan. It's so lovely to talk to you.
Nice to see you.
I absolutely love your music. Thank
you so much.
Yeah, and now looking at you and your pictures, you have that very much golden age look.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah. It just suits the music and everything. Where did the love for these more classical music came from?
I always had it, I think. I mean, there's never a time that I didn't. The first influence I remember was the record of The Wizard of Oz, and hearing that. But and that was when I was 2. And that's when I, decided I wanted to be a singer because of Judy Garland. But yes, but my father is a jazz musician by avocation, and my mother loves pop music and musicals. So I think there was always music playing.
That influence, yeah. But you do a lot of Judy Garland songs and so on. Is this for you? I mean, is she your sort of idol, or what is it about her that you love so much?
It's hard because it goes so far back to my early childhood and first memories. But and I mean, even I just start thinking about it and I kind of tear up because it's almost a pre-language memory. But I think when I heard her sing Over the Rainbow, there was some kind of longing in that song and her voice that I just connected with on a deep level. And, it's, and that's what she does with her music. And so I guess as an artist, I admire her so much. And, I mean, I love lots of other artists too, but for me, she's a once in a 500-year singing artist.
Yeah, she has a very unique and distinctive voice.
Yes.
But I've also read that people almost compare your voice to hers as well.
They do. Well, I mean, I don't think I sound exactly like her, but because I listened to her so much, and the influence was so early. I guess what I'm trying to do is basically do her technique and style, but with my instrument, because I don't impersonate. And there was only one Judy Garland, and there were many things in her life that made her unique. And thankfully, those things, some of the bad things that happened to her have not happened to me. But so I try to, when I sing her music, I try to take the approach that she does, which is that there is really no barrier between her and the and the music and the audience. I try to keep the channels open.
tell me your singing training. Did you play other instruments as well, or as a child did you or just always wanted to sing?
Well, I did always want to sing, but actually, I also wanted to play the harp. And my parents said, there
Really?
is no way we're buying you a harp. But I got to play the piano. So I started piano when I was 4, and played very seriously. I mean, I did piano competitions, and which for a while completely destroyed my love of the piano.
Really?
So, yes.
The pressure. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I played pretty seriously all through college, and actually I play all day because I also teach singing. But lately I've been trying to reclaim the piano a bit for myself. So, yeah.
So and then the singing came afterwards, or you said that so you went, did you do classical training?
Oh yes, I did. I went to Oberlin. Well, I mean, I studied voice privately starting at age 9. I sang in the Des Moines Children's Chorus that was in the state of Iowa.
Oh, okay.
For years. Did a lot of choral work. And then went to Oberlin Conservatory of Music and majored in classical voice.
Okay. It's interesting that you say the choir, because many singers talk about their time in the choir, that they started singing in the choir.
Yes, yes. I did church choir and children's choir and school choir. So a lot of choirs. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, choir is also that community, you know, that you have when you sing with other people and so on. And I love your teacup.
Oh, thank you.
My goodness, you are just doing
it was my grandmother's, and
really,
I always, I kind of believe that objects hold some energy from the people who loved them, and my grandmother has passed away, but this is one of her cups.
Yeah, I believe that too. I also have a thing for cups.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, no, it's something that I buy very frequently, and I like the old cups, the ones that I like, sets that's secondhand sets, that's not full sets, that has little chips and little cracks and things in. I think it's part of showing that it's been used, or that it has a life.
I love that. Yes, I love that.
But anyway, so let's about the choir singing. Yeah, this is most singers have that background of choir singing, but then you said you moved on to study then classical singing.
Yes.
So, how did you then take this route? Because did you ever sing opera, or were you part of that scene?
Yes. Well, my opera career peaked very early. At the age of 16, I got to play, I don't know if you know Benjamin Britten's work, The Turn of the Screw, but I got to play Flora in The Turn of the Screw with the Des Moines Metro Opera. And that was the beginning and end of my professional opera career. So I majored, I did sing opera and classical music in college, but then immediately went back to my first love upon graduation, which was American popular song and musicals.
And those songs are so timeless, I love those. I love those songs. And these old the songs of the movies, really, because they are And then you sing also with big bands, and because those songs lend themselves to big bands.
Oh yes, yes. Mostly I sing with full symphony orchestras, but big bands are wonderful as well. And I mean, a lot of the music I do actually was written for a studio orchestra, which was a big band plus a string section.
Okay. So your career, because you are then a freelancer, and was it easy to get into this genre of music? That you could establish yourself. How did you go about doing that?
Well, I mean, I feel like I'm still establishing myself, and probably always will. But being able to sing nationally with symphony orchestras is not. If I'd known how hard it was, I don't think I wouldn't have had the courage to do it. So it's, ignorance is bliss. But,
yeah.
but I suspect many of us don't realize how hard things are going to be, and that's a good thing, because then we go ahead and plunge in with all that optimism, and then you just keep jumping the hurdles. And if you want to do it enough, you just keep going. And what was your original question? I lost it with.
That was the question. How did you get into that? Because it must have been also a bit daunting, going in, knowing this is what I want to do, but then finding this route and getting the people on board with you. Yes.
Well, my first orchestra concert came as a result of, I was in the musical Carousel by Rodgers and Hammerstein, and playing Julie Jordan, and the conductor of the Cleveland Pops Orchestra, Carl Topolo, and his wife Shirley Morgenstern came to see it, and then they asked me if I would like to sing a concert with them and a Broadway star named William Michaels. And so yes, it was my first concert was very daunting. That was back in 2005. And we have a beautiful hall here in Cleveland called Severance Hall, where the Cleveland Orchestra plays and the Cleveland Pops play, and it was built in the 1930s, and it's all gold and silver and beautiful, restored, and beautiful acoustics. And yes, that was my first concert. And of course, you don't have that many rehearsals. We had 2, which is more than I sometimes get with an orchestra, but really you're just plunged in at the deep end. And yes, so I opened with a Broadway song that the conductor picked called Getting Married Today, and it's a patter song. And so it's very, 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 very fast. And I think we did it the fastest I've ever heard it on any recording. And, so it's like, well, here we go. So, yeah. And then I said, well, I really love doing this. I want to, have arrangements of my own that I can bring with me, so that I don't have to learn a completely new program every time.
Deep humility, I stand in front of you. I'm proud to play the palace. It's like a dream come true. That is why I'd like to shout it.
So do you choose then the songs you want to do?
Yes, and actually I also restore part of the long road, my long history with Judy Garland is that eventually back in 2016 I met the pianist, singer, archivist Michael Feinstein, who was a trustee at the time of the Judy Garland Trust. And we had been corresponding for a while, but I met him in person and mentioned that I was I was already doing a Judy Garland show with some arrangements that I'd commissioned for the orchestra based on her recordings. And I said, oh, this arrangement is just not right, and I'm wrestling with it to fix it. And he said, oh, I think I have all the original parts of that arrangement. What? He said, I think I just saw it. And I said, oh, I mean, you could have picked me up off the floor. So
I can imagine, yeah.
I guess be careful what you wish for, because I had been looking for her original arrangements and hadn't found any. I'd looked in archives, and so basically, to make a long story short, we started working together on restoring all of Judy Garland's recordings, all of her arrangements that she sang in the 1961 famous Carnegie Hall concert. The record won a Grammy Award, and just yesterday he sent me more arrangements that have resurfaced. So all of my Garland arrangements are her original arrangements that she sang on tour or on recordings. So it's like getting to walk into the recordings. And actually he found the original recording, the original arrangement of Over the Rainbow from the movie that had been lost for 80 years. Wow. And I got to restore it, and now I get to sing it. So
I get goosebumps.
It's a very crazy circle that has come around. And I mean, it's a tremendous amount of work, because often the parts, you'll get the flute part and the clarinet part and all the string parts, and maybe there are some missing. Or there's so many cross-outs, so they're kind of a mess sometimes, but I enter them all into the computer in a music notation program, and then generate a conductor score, because usually that's missing. So
I see. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a lot of work, but it's tremendously rewarding.
But how did you have background in composing or arranging music, or was it something you had to learn as you go?
Yeah, well, I mean, my conservatory training at Oberlin really, obviously made that possible, and all the years of piano. Mm-hmm. I also had been transcribing note for note from old recordings, making piano arrangements for many years. And I think that my father, as a guitarist, also does that. I mean, he doesn't write it down, but he's able to take things by ear from a recording. So and my sister, who's a saxophone player. So I maybe it's genetic, I don't know, but I can transcribe things off recordings. So that, and I don't have absolute pitch, but I'm still able to do that. So.
And do you still listen to her recordings to really make sure that you're doing it the way that it's intended?
Yes, all the time. But the interesting thing about Judy Garland is that, and many other singers, is that, it's wonderful if you have more than one recording, because you get to hear how they play with it and how it's different every time, which is what I try to bring into a live performance, just living in the song moment to moment, because, she never did it the same way twice.
Yeah, and of course, I think as also with recordings, it's different than how she did it live on stage.
Very different, yes. Yeah. And which is why it's fun that there actually are so many live recordings of her, or at least with a studio audience. Yeah.
But you must have an idea of what she was thinking, because if you listen to her music so much, and if you know so much about her, it must almost be like a friend, like somebody you know.
It is, yes. I do feel like, I regret that she passed away before I was born, so I never got to meet her. But I do feel like I have, how do I say this? Well, to me, music is like, it's one of the ways we can time travel.
Yeah.
And because, if I'm singing the exact same thing that she is with the same accompaniment, it's kind of like the time between that goes away. It's a little bit of a wormhole, I guess. And yes, I don't presume to know her thoughts, but but I certainly sometimes feel like she's almost there when I'm singing. So, and in fact, okay, I will confess that one time well, more than once, I actually, in the middle of a concert when I'd had to take a red-eye flight and then had a lot of rehearsing and was just absolutely exhausted. And usually I'm in, I train my voice, so I'm in very good shape, but sometimes when I just get no sleep, it can be tough. And I was feeling unusually tired right after the first song of the second act, which and I actually just unconsciously looked up into the balcony and prayed for Judy to just kind of be with me. And it was strange, but all of a sudden I was fine. So,
amazing. I believe in these things. Yeah.
So strange as it seems, maybe she's my patron saint. I don't know.
I believe that.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely, yeah. No, absolutely. But when you because you have the most beautiful dresses, so do you also try to dress do you have that thought when you sing, the type of music that you is it a conscious decision to do that, to dress?
Yes. And it's also a conscious decision not to duplicate her costumes so that it doesn't seem like an impersonation. But yes, sometimes I buy dresses already made and then I have things changed about them to make them look a little bit more 1950s, 1940s, 1960s. And then I work with a costumer named Gloria Swansong, who actually is coming over for fitting tomorrow for a new gown. But yes, so sometimes they're designed, to look like what one of the singers I sing the music of might have worn in a film.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it must be also for you important to not be seen as a double, like as a
impersonator. Yes. Which is a completely different
style.
Yeah, it's a different art form. So I'm not duplicating her gestures exactly or exactly what she sings, but I guess I'm trying to use her approach on her material with my instrument live and in the moment.
So this next one is a rarity from Judy's personal musical files. It's the version of The Boy Next Door that she sang on her television show in 1964. Well, this is definitely one of the few times anyone's heard it live since then. How can I ignore the boy next door? I love him more than I can say. I just adore him, so I can't ignore him. The boy next door.
And you also sing other classical, Hollywood movie songs and so on. So can you feel that you adjust your voice when you do that, when you're not singing Judy's work?
Definitely. Yes, I just debuted a new concert last fall called It's Magic with some Garland, but also Doris Day and Ella Fitzgerald and Lena Horne, Peggy Lee, who else? Edie Gourmet, Keely Smith. So, and I do try to pay homage to their singing styles, and yet still sound like me, I guess. Yeah.
And also, the audience, they is that something that you find that audiences love, these older classical songs? You know, are they open for that? Is that something they want to hear?
Well, I hope so, and I hope it continues. You know, I think nostalgia is important, and we all have associations with these songs, and so it'll for every individual person, it'll bring back different memories, maybe of where they were when they heard it, or you know, being with family or watching the movies on Turner Classic Movies. But also, I just feel that this was a golden age of American popular songwriting. Absolutely, it's kind of like America's Shakespearean age, where, you know, they didn't even realize, the songwriters and orchestrators didn't realize they were creating art. They just were getting a paycheck, most of them, but yet they did. And and I actually feel that it's America's classical music, to some extent.
Also, when I mean, if you take, for instance, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, if you see it in the context of the film, it's still beautiful. But the moment you see somebody perform it on a stage and with an orchestra, it completely has. Then you actually realize, wait a minute, the lyrics are so beautiful and the music is so beautiful, because you don't see it within the film. And many of these older Hollywood films have that same impact. Sometimes when you hear it, you know, when you hear the music outside the film, you suddenly realize, wow, this is such a beautiful song.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah, because I mean, probably you're focusing more on just the song and not the whole scene. And that's an interesting point.
Yeah. And now on stage, are you comfortable? Because you said that from a young age, this is what you wanted to do. Are you very comfortable when you get on stage?
Yes. I tend to still get nervous before a performance, some more than others, but generally, once I get out there, I feel like I'm at home. It's getting out. It's all the steps getting there. And once I'm there, I'm real happy. It is definitely my happy place, connecting with an audience. And I mean, there's no greater thrill, I think, than being able to stand in the middle of an orchestra with all that sound. And I mean, it's not a vantage point that most people ever get to experience. And it's
absolutely,
I mean, the vibrations go through your body. I mean, it's quite intense. And then the loop of the energy with the audience can be quite intense. I still remember, you know, I think it was fall of 2021, my first orchestra concert after a long hiatus because of the pandemic was with the New Haven Symphony in Connecticut. And I walked out on stage for the Trolley song, which is a happy song and absolutely, you know, but the energy, it had been so long, and the energy from the audience and the orchestra hit me, and it's like an electric shock, and I mean, I was tearing up so much I could barely sing it, and it was probably ridiculous, I don't know, but I mean, because it's, you know, it's happy, so yeah, it's intense, and that made me realize, because one takes it for granted when it's happening frequently, but I had
Yeah, I
forgotten.
know. Yeah, but many singers said that, told me, because I did a also interview series over lockdown, and many told me that they missed that energy, that it's because some I know there were live streamings of and concerts and so on, and then they say, well, it feels
not the
so
same.
empty, yeah, because
Yes.
you need that energy from the audience. But I also spoke to a opera singer recently who said that, when you sing opera or when you sing in a musical and you're in a role, you are sort of you're a different person. You're playing, you're singing the role. But when you stand on stage and it's you and the piano, or it's you and the orchestra, it's much more daunting, and it's much more, it's just you there. You're not playing a role, or you're not singing a role. So, so do you feel that, can you find that difference as well?
Yeah, it is different. I'm doing both. I always sometimes feel like my skin is turned inside out and everyone can see, but, and it may be just the kind of roles I have done, but, I guess, my stage persona is a bit of a role. So, because, I'm, I guess, a classic introvert extrovert performer. So I'm often very quiet and then I get on stage and it's a different facet of my personality, probably that I've honed over many years. So it's not exactly me. It's me playing a version of me that gets out in front of 2,000 people and sings. So.
By himself, by God. Oh, Johnny, one note, got in Aida, indeed, a great chance to be brave. He took his one note, howled like the north wind, brought forth wind that made critics rave. While Barry turned round in his grave, couldn't hear the flute.
Yeah, no, but it's fair, and that you do that, because you also know the person's music that you're singing. So
and there's a little bit of that comes in as well, so it is a bit of a role,
and you've got beautiful dresses, so
and yes, and you put on a costume and there you go.
Yeah, that's wonderful. But now, Joan, tell me, well, do people sometimes call you Judy?
Yes, actually.
Really?
and actually, Joan is a stage name, so it's not even the name I was given as a child. Okay. I'm legally still Alyssa.
Oh, I see.
So Joan isn't anything. Ellison is a family name, and it's my middle name.
Okay. And why Joan? May I ask why the stage
Sure. Yes. I had recently graduated from college and was moving to another state. And I thought, if I'm ever going to change my name, this is the time to do it. And so I did. And I had to pick something quickly, but there were a few reasons, but I'm very fond of Joan Fontaine, the actress. And I had just read a book about Pope Joan. I don't know if you've ever read about her. So that was interesting. And I looked in the index of a big Hollywood picture book I had, and the most 30s actresses were named Joan, basically. And I thought it worked pretty well with Ellison.
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
So it's been more than half my life that I've had the name Joan, but occasionally my family still calls me Alyssa.
Oh, I see. No, it fits perfectly. But I just thought, because Joan and Judy is so close, that and because it would be easy for people to call you Judy.
Yes, and sometimes they do, especially if I come in and they don't know me ahead of time, and they'll slip it in. So.
But now, Joan, what are the wishes for you for the future? What are you hoping to do still?
Oh, well, that's good question. I've just begun exploring doing more recording in a home studio. That's something that I've always been interested in and have done on and off. But I'm really making time for it now. Like I feel like I need a large chunk of time, and I don't have any performances coming up for a while. So I thought this is the time to do it. So I just, was it last week, had an intense week getting everything up and running. And I'm actually recording piano tracks and recording with a cellist that I work with sometimes named Nora Willauer. And I'm just going to see what happens with that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it must be also very creative to do that, you know.
It is. And I feel like I needed something that I could control all the artistic aspects myself and not, you know, not have the timing dictated by, you know, being engaged by an orchestra. I'm very interested in recording songs that may not have been hits at the time, but you know, perhaps an obscure Gershwin song or you know, by other songwriters that I enjoy. And there were some songs written actually for Judy Garland that I just recorded that she never recorded, but they were written for her to sing. So so I did new arrangements, and so that's a hint of what's to come. But
that's amazing. I love when musicians do that, you know, when they take these unknown pieces that, and they are sometimes so beautiful, and you wonder why have they not been recorded?
Yes.
But then it's also this idea of, I think this, like you say, you've got the freedom now to choose what you want to do. But I wonder if the artists of those years also didn't have the freedom. And, you know, now it's easy to have your own recording studio, but those days it was something that you were in the hands of the people who could do it.
Yes. You know, I'm constantly frustrated by, you know, the fact that some of the singers I admire the most just had to sing some terrible songs. And, you know, they did it. It was, you know, it was part of their contract and they had to do it. But they often didn't get to choose the songs they wanted to do. I'm thinking of Doris Day in particular. I mean, she really had to sing some awful stuff, and she was such a wonderful singer. So, you know, it's a privilege now that we can do that.
And this is also something that musicians said during lockdown, that they had the time to sort of explore and try and see what they can do themselves. So wonderful that you're also doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And you said you teach as well?
I do. I teach pop voice at the Cleveland Institute of Music, which is really a strictly classical conservatory. But we have a joint music program with Case Western Reserve University, which is right next door. And so they have a pop music program. And so I teach majors from there, and then also theater majors. And I also teach at this is a long title, but the Cleveland Playhouse, which is a professional regional theater here, and Case Western Reserve University have a Master of Fine Arts in Acting program, and I teach those students as well. So so it's and then I also teach a few students at home and on Zoom. So yes, I teach a wide variety of popular vocal styles, which keeps it interesting.
Yeah, and sometimes musicians say when they teach, then they also learn from the students. And do you find that as well?
All the time. Yes. Well, especially with contemporary pop, they are always teaching me, because there's just so much music coming out all the time that it's almost impossible to keep up. So I rely on them to bring to my attention some of the really nice stuff that's coming out, especially from lesser known artists.
Oh yeah.
They have a way of finding it. So,
But Joan, thank you so much for this
Thank
wonderful
you.
interview. Thank you so much for singing these beautiful songs, because you know, they are for me, that's really my type of music that I love so
Oh,
much as well.
thank
Yeah.
you so much. So I
And-
have a question for you. Do you listen to music when you are doing your photography, which is so lovely?
I love, thank you. No, I love music. I always listen to music. Yeah.
Okay.
And I have my Spotify account, and when I walk, I also listen to music. So
Okay.
yeah, no, so, but this is absolutely my favorite. And I love these old musicals, and I love these, you know, that era always looks for me as if it was so glamorous, you know,
It does.
way they dressed, and just the
Yes.
way they also fell in love, and it all sounds, it all looks also
It's so romantic. Yes.
so romantic.
Not really like real life, but we need that, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Beyond